Hey guys, Josh from Solution Based. So we're going to hit on Radiant. I'm probably going to do 2 or 3 videos about it. I'm going to do one of them in my office with my whiteboard so you can kind of understand some of the pitfalls of Radiant. There are a lot of bad Radiant installs. And when I say a lot, I would say, because I specialize in it, a full 80% of the Radiant jobs that I see were done by someone that just doesn't understand it. And I get it, because if you didn't grow up with it with someone that was really good at it, it's very easy to make a lot of mistakes with. So we're going to look at the piping in the basement. Okay, a couple things about Radiant. You're always going to see a mixing valve. Okay, this sets the temperature for the system. In Radiant, that is absolutely pivotal. In a Radiant floor, this is my mix temperature going out to the system. These are the supplies to the actual floor itself. These are the returns from the floor. If you'll notice, there's a couple things I have. I have the mixing valve. I have an outgoing temperature gauge. That is essential. You must have this. You must know what the temperature of your water going out is. You absolutely have to know that. It is also very helpful to know, and in my opinion, necessary to have a return gauge so that you can tell what your return water is coming back at. Because what we do in all heating and cooling applications is set what's called a delta T. Delta T is the differential between your outgoing something and your incoming something. So in air, your supply air temperature versus your return temperature. In water, it's going to be your supply water coming back from your return water. And the delta T is the difference that is created by you putting that energy into the space that you're conditioning. And that gives us a design measure. We design for the golden rule is a 20-degree delta T. There are reasons to kind of move that around, once you become a designer, but that's pretty much the gold standard. Is a 20-degree delta T is what we design for, and having both of these gauges lets me see where I'm falling in my delta T and gives me valuable input on what my system is doing. Okay, so one of the #1 mistakes that people make is overheating their Radiant floor, and let me tell you, you can do a lot of damage by overheating your Radiant floor. Sending out supply water temperature that is too hot can damage wood floors, it can buckle things, it can cause all kinds of problems. So understanding what type of substrate you're working in and how it's applied is essential to making sure that you keep the construction materials in the space safe. There are things like carpet that you have a bunch of leeway with. You can really put a carpet system pretty high and not create a lot of problems. Same thing with tile, depending on the application. Tile will take a very warm floor. There's a point where it actually becomes uncomfortable on your foot, especially a wet foot, where it becomes too hot for usage, but it really is able to take heat. The real big one with trouble is wood floors, and wood floors take an extremely careful approach to making sure that you don't do damage to a nice wood floor with a Radiant system. So, and that starts with know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. So by having these 2 gauges, we can then adjust the system appropriately for the type of substrate that it's in. This piping setup, you should be able to see something like this. Supply water coming in, return water coming in to bring this temperature back down. That's what this is all about. I'm mixing a little bit, mixing valve, right? I'm mixing a little bit of return water in with my supply water temperature so that I can ultimately end up with the right outgoing supply that I'm looking for. And you want whoever you're having work on the system to understand these things, and you're going to want to be able to ask pointing questions. You know what I mean? Tell me how you would calibrate this. What temperatures do you like your floor at? Someone who's good at this is going to have some pretty good answers of, like, I can tell you that, and there are people that are going to blow me up. I can tell you over some of these numbers. I can tell you from experience, some of my systems, this one in particular, runs at about 126 degrees supply temperature. There are reasons for that I can and will explain in another video. Some people say, you can't run temperatures that high. You can run temperatures that high depending on what type of system you have. I have systems that are buried in 6 inches of concrete that were done in the early 2000s. They run 140-degree water because if they don't even get hot. So you really need to know these systems, and especially one that's been jacked up by somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. The person that's going to then come in and try and get it to work really needs to have some practical application ability to be able to make judgment calls and discuss with you, okay, here's the trouble you're in, here's what we're going to try to do to overcome that, and then be able to dial it in. But even dialing one in that is in trouble or working on them at all is an expensive affair. And I will warn you that, you're definitely going to need to want this badly to be able to deal with not only the expense of putting it in, but also maintaining it. Thanks, guys.